Hello. So I apologize that this lighting is so weirdly muted. I just for once felt like I had the energy and time to make this fun video about my lesbian Catholic trauma. So I'm doing it now, even though the sun is literally setting behind me, creating a dark shadow to fall across my entire face and body. But you know what? It fits the video, so there you go. Yes, I'm wearing a lame shirt. Yes, I was a theater kid. Eventually, I might talk about it, but right now, that is not what that is about. So just get it out of the way. Feast your eyes on Cosette and the French flag, subliminally telling you to overthrow the government, and me directly telling you to overthrow the government because it's stupid. We don't need the current government. Anyway, here's my fun outline. So, my cursed origins. I was adopted by a family who is really heavily Catholic. My mom is actually the really intense Irish Catholic one. My dad really did not care about religion. He also did not want to go to church, so me and him would just be sitting in church messing around, and my mom would get really annoyed. So like, that's kind of how that happened. But the weird thing is my dad's relatives, I think it was like one of his grandfathers was like weirdly like a missionary in China, but not just anywhere in China, specifically in Hunan province, which is the province that I'm from, which I think is kind of ooky spooky. I actually really don't like that. Like it like freaks me out really badly. As I noted at the end, which I might still talk about at the end, I feel like generations of my family have been planning to go like steal a Chinese person directly from China and like convert them into Catholicism. It sounds kind of funny, but like genuinely, I do actually have a priest in my family. His name is Father Michael. Sadly, I do not actually know if he's still alive because he was super, super old when I was little and I saw him at family dinners and holidays. But like now I have no contact with my family because I look like this. So a Broadway stand? No, I'm kidding. It's literally, I am gay now visibly. So like I'm worried that I would try to reconnect with them and they would literally be like trying to exorcise the demons out of me. And I'm like, what are you going to do about that? I have no idea. But that cousin in my family is actually kind of weirdly cool because like he was actually one of the only priests in New Jersey to step out in the early 2010s and march on Trenton, which is where I think the archdiocese is. I'm about to say a bunch of Catholic words and not explain them. I'm really sorry. But if I went and tried to go into what the archdiocese and the bishops and the cardinals and do the whole hokey pokey of Catholicism with you, I think I would be here for like 5 hours. So just bear with me and context clues. Oh no, I think one of my neighbors is coming home. Anyway, this is gonna be my new filming spot, and I think it's gonna be interesting because my neighbors can just watch me do this, but it's fine. But anyway, he went to the archdiocese and actually went and marched in to the big church and essentially had like a big sermon situation and or ceremony where he was like, listen guys, like the pedophilia in the Catholic Church is unacceptable. We cannot do this. Like it is completely not right that we have so many kids getting hurt by the Catholic Church. Specifically by priests. Like I'm a priest and I've seen enough. Like I've seen enough. Like this needs to stop. And he got like all these like newspaper articles written about him in regards to what he said, and I think it might have gotten him blacklisted from the church because he was literally like, yeah, we don't need pedophiles here. We're literally like scaring away the congregation and ruining our reputation and also ruining children's lives by like, enabling and saying nothing about these things that are happening right under our noses that we all know about, but we're not saying anything about. So all that to say, you should watch the movie Doubt starring Meryl Streep because it's an amazing movie. I'm pretty sure Viola Davis was also in it and she was a mother of one of the boys who was getting molested in the church. It's a very good one. All that to say, I have really deep ties in my family to the Catholic Church. We're going to go back on script because I could talk about it for 50 years, and I probably will. So, this is something that I take very seriously, and you can think whatever you would like to think about it, but I'm like, actually, this was like a very specific thing. So, my mom prayed to the Lady of Knock, like went to Ireland on a plane, went and prayed to the Lady of Knock for me to be able to be her child, and did all this like very specific, like honestly very pagan stuff when she got to Ireland. And then the next day after she did her ritual, like she got a phone call from the Chinese embassy essentially saying you can take your child home, because there was some sort of holdup. I was very sick right before I got adopted, so I think they wanted to hold me in China before I went over to America. So my parents had no idea if they could come and pick me up and when they can come and pick me up. She did a very specific prayer and prayed for an intercession and ended up getting the intercession, weirdly enough, which from my experience does not happen very often. And when like legitimate miracles do happen, which I do believe in miracles literally, to a certain extent, like, because there's so many unexplained things on this earth. Like I really, like, maybe it's just my ooky spooky upbringing, but like it kind of weirds me out the amount of like coincidences that happened around my adoption in regards to the Lady of Knock. So at this point in my life, and also just in general, I actually do have a very specific relationship with Mary and like all of the different iterations of Mary, which I will go into later. So that was an interesting, weird thing that occurred that was just like, I can't explain it, you know? And she would always tell me like, I prayed for you. And that sounds so like vague. And a lot of people are like, I'll pray for you, like whatever. But it's like, she legitimately like prayed for me to be her child. It was really like very, intentional in a specific way that makes me wonder where things went wrong, because the second she did actually have me in her arms, I don't think she was very happy. But whatever, that's like a whole thing I talked about in my last video. So that happened. I do actually have 2 nuns in my family also, so 2 nuns and a priest, which is, I don't like, it's kind of crazy to think about because I know a lot of people aren't going into what is it, the vocation anymore. Like they don't feel called to God, which like makes complete sense because we live in modern society, and a lot of the ooky spooky stuff that enabled Catholicism to be so like powerful and like honestly like detrimental and scary does not exist anymore. Are there still like really intense Bible thumping people? Yeah, there are, but I feel like not that one is better than the other because they're both very evil, but I feel like Catholicism is a very specific type of spiritualism because a lot of it is based in religions that had to use Catholicism to hide their old pagan religions or hide their old but like polytheistic religions because they were, colonized. So I feel like there's a very specific backbone to Catholicism that, and like culture, that maybe a lot of other types of very specific like Christian religions like really don't have in a lot of ways. But that's like a whole talk about theology. Yeah, so I knew I was gay in preschool. I knew I was gay. I knew I liked girls. Like, a lot of people are like, well, how do you know? You haven't even had sex with a girl if you're like a child. It's like, well, how did you know you were straight? Like, it's not like it was necessarily all sex-based. Like, for me, I literally just had this one girl in my class who I thought was the most cool, beautiful, smart person in the world. She was also very mean to me, but she was also like aggressively Irish. Like, so I thought that she looked like, I don't know, a princess in like an Irish fairy tale book. So immediately, obviously, I was like, I'm in love with you. Like, it was, I used to write her poetry. Her name was Deirdre O'Loughlin. Whatever. If she finds this, whatever. The last time I saw you, you were very mean to me, so it doesn't even matter. Enjoy me having a weird lesbian crush on you when I was a child. I'd write her poetry, and I'd be like, look at this. Like, I wrote this for you. Like, what do you think? And she'd be like, there's a spelling error, and this doesn't make any sense. And I'd be like, okay. Like, and then I would write more poetry and get my ass handed to me, and it still happens to this day. Just kidding. I don't do that anymore, but that took a lot of learning and beating out of me to not be writing poetry and making comics for people who are not nice to me. So that's a life lesson that you don't learn in Catholic school. So I knew, like, I figured it out. And the second I felt it, this is like very sad in my opinion, I immediately knew I would get in trouble for it. Like, I was like, maybe, oh no, like, and then I realized, like, oh no, like, my parents will be actively angry at me, particularly my mom, because this is not something that's acceptable. And like, it's weird that I was a kid, and like, I think, how do I put it? People, like other kids, and then also other parents would be like homophobic around me, and then I would see homophobia in the media, and I would just be like, I can't be this. Like, I cannot be this way. Like, I know if I want to make my mom proud and then not, this is like really intense sounding. If I don't want to let down the goddess who brought me to America, I cannot be gay. I can't do it. Just because, side note, like, I was going to go into this later, but I might talk about it a little bit now. I think that very specific apparitions of Mary that appear, for example, the Lady of Knock, who I guess I could briefly tell the story. So this was during the time of the famine in Ireland. Everyone is starving, and the people like gathered together, and they were all dying. They were literally dying of different various diseases, cholera, starvation, whatever else that were inflicted upon them from the British. They all prayed together for an intercession, a miracle, whatever you want to say, to end their suffering. And an apparition of Mary did appear before them. So the story goes. It was Mary, and then I think St. John, and then maybe another one of the saints who was a guy. And they all appeared to these people, and they prayed with them. And the big thing that my mom emphasized is the fact that Mary did not show up in a crown or like, in, fancy clothes, like no splendor, no look at me, I'm so much better than you people. She literally showed up in rags and prayed with them. Like, that's what the apparition looked like. And you could sit there and be like, oh no, they were all starving, so they're all just seeing like a group hallucination. It's like, I don't think that's true. I think that they did see a goddess who took the form of Mary, like an old Irish goddess, like very like old magic type of situation, took the form of Mary with, which is what a lot of the old gods, in my opinion, do. They take the form of these Catholic icons so that the people won't be punished for seeing an icon who is not, within the religion of their oppressor. Even though the funny thing is the Irish were being oppressed for being Catholic. Like, the British were all Protestant, and they were like, you guys are all like dogs, you're all beasts, you're animals, like this is, your pagan god that you're essentially worshiping, even though it is technically Catholic. So like, we're going to try to prevent you from having mass. So, and there's so many like stories in like, I don't know, like the Irish culture that are about that, that my mom taught me about when I was little. Like, very quick one. Apparently there was, how do I put it? There was a priest who was holding an illegal mass at night because you had to worship in secret, apparently, during that time. So he was doing one of his night masses, and as he was holding up the bread to be consecrated, a British soldier like shot him right through, I think it was like his heart or whatever, and like he died. Like, and as he sank to the ground, there was a rock underneath his knee. His knee hit the rock, and then from that rock sprang like holy water. And so from, that day forward, that rock has always had a stream, springing forth from it. Like, it sounds so ooky spooky, but like genuinely, like I'm not a super religious person, but I am a super spiritual person for obvious reasons because I was raised this way. So these things, I know they sound very like, ooh, like, but it's especially, I feel like a lot of, especially like gay people, for like, I don't blame them for like reasons of trauma, but also just in general, I feel like I know a lot of gay people who I've experienced who are white and they never were raised Catholic. So these are for non-Catholic people. They essentially think that they're so like liberal and high-minded that like every single religious thing that could ever happen is fake. Even if it's not in the context of like, Christian religion. They're like, oh, that's so like weird and like that's not scientifically proven. And it's like, I get it and I get what you're saying, but also I feel like very specific types of, once again, like sects of the Catholic faith are like, they're more old world and mystical than you would think. And my mom was like a big believer in that stuff because her parents were, once again, I've mentioned this before, like directly from Ireland. So their perspective was very much, this isn't just like a friend of a friend of a friend, or like, oh, I heard a story once. Like, this is things that like they grew up around essentially by living in Ireland, especially the west of Ireland, which was hit so hard by the potato famine that like so many people died and so many people were like seeking out something to comfort them in their time of need, and that happened to be their religion. So that's why, the Catholic faith is so strong within, Irish culture especially. So there's like, I'm sorry, I thought this video was going to be relatively simple, but I'm realizing so many things I grew up with that I just kind of were like, were just part of my life. I took them for granted maybe, and I was just like, yeah, no, totally, like holy water springing out of like a rock where like a priest was slain, like, yeah, like a woman in rags appearing to pray with the people who came from heaven. Like, it's just so ingrained up there that I'm just like, yeah, that's just normal, like that's just how it is. And maybe other people who are Catholic, but like not just like generic Easter, Christmas, Mass Catholic, but like we're really, really raised Catholic, especially in like a way that it's not just a vague religion or a vague tradition, like it's literally like a cultural thing that's ingrained with you. Like, mayhaps you will understand. or I just sound like a crazy person, which I understand, but like it's, I don't know. Let's continue. Let's go further into the madness. Yeah, so I gave up on getting God's approval when I was 15. Like, fully, I distinctly remember being in 8th grade. Yes, I was held back a year for being too aggressive to boys. Literally, like, I got held back in preschool. I think that's kind of tragic. Also, maybe I was like aggressively neurodivergent in a way that people were not addressing. And I actually made a video about that yesterday, and then I immediately deleted it because I was like, I went too hard. And people will get too mad at me for essentially saying that being a person of color and being neurodivergent is actually like a very radically different experience than being a white person and being neurodivergent, because like as a person of color, it's like, oh, you already have something wrong with you, like you're already like a person of color, like, and if you have anything else going on, like it can't exist because that's unacceptable. But I went way harder, and then I was like, you know what? Ironically, I got a little too neurodivergent on that one and started yelling and like saying all these like very specific things in a very specific way, and like doing all my weird like hand motions that I do when I get really into something, and I'm like not trying to like make myself calm down. So like it was a lot, but yeah. So back on topic. Just kidding. I've never been on topic in my entire life. So I remember distinctly sitting in the church and like on my knees in the pew, like just being like, God, you better fucking listen to me. It's either you're going to change me or you're going to kill me, because this is not change. Like, I have a feeling this isn't changing, but if I continue to be this way, I know that I will burn in hell for the rest of eternity. So before I do anything and I commit the actual sin of homosexuality, I'm going to need you to fix this for me. Thank you. Like, I got really upset because once again, like there was a time in my life where like Catholicism was everything to me. Like I was really into praying. I was really into going to church. I was really into trying to avoid things that would make me sinful, which is like crazy. Because in my mind, it was definitely like taught to me like, okay, you've already committed the sin of being a brown person, so you have to find a way to repent and you have to be on best behavior or else you actually are going to go to hell. And I was just like, like I was just guilty all the time. It was really bad for me. I actually had like severe stomach problems because I was so anxious over going to hell. Like it was crazy. And like then I would pray every single night with my mom. We would do a decade of the rosary, and I would sit there and I would just be like saying I haven't done this in a while, so like forgive me for that one, but I think it's the 10 Hail Marys per like bead set, and then the Our Father and the Glory Be. And every single night I would sit there and go around the rosary with my mom, and we would pray for her health because she was really sick a lot of the time. We would pray for my dad's soul. We would pray for my soul. And like, we would pray that like we could forgive the things that would not change. And in my mind, I was like, me being a lesbian, but externally, I just really hyper-focused on God making me white, which sounds, once again, really intense, because it was. And like, this was my life for the first 17 years. Like, it was so much. And it was just part of my everyday existence. I would get scolded in school because I am ambidextrous, but I favor my left hand. So I would cross myself with my left hand, and the teacher would come over and be like, you need to not do that because you're offending God. by trying to evoke his name in prayer with your left hand. And I was like, you know what, maybe you're right. So like I would try to be like this, but then it felt like I was going backwards and I just couldn't concentrate on the prayer, and I was like suffering. It was a really bad time. I like to pretend that being a lefty was the worst thing I'd ever done in my life. I would like to pretend that it wasn't me going on DeviantArt at 2 a.m. after my mom was asleep and looking up boobs. Which is still accurate to this day. Maybe Lou still does that sometimes. But like, I just needed to, I definitely needed to fucking calm down. But like, I felt like, this is actually also very sad. I felt like because I didn't pray hard enough, my dad died. Which, like, not for nothing, he literally had like a malignant tumor in his like frontal lobe that was not getting better. It like literally, like, the doctors confirmed like it is not getting better, he's going to die. But in my mind, and like according to my mom, if we all collectively prayed hard enough, and she would go to church like super often, like at least 3 times a week, to try to get an intercession from Mary again to heal him, And I felt so guilty because I felt like she wasted her one intercession on me. I made a comic about that once and I cried. It was like a lot, but like I really was like, okay, like God could have healed my father if he didn't choose to bring me to America, because that was like the miracle that like my mom got, and like I was supposed to be the miracle, but I couldn't possibly be, because now I know that I'm gay and I'm still a brown person, and like it was just, I was in it. I'm laughing right now, but the thing is I literally would like cry about this shit for like just so many I was gonna say like hours, days, but honestly I cried about this for years. Like I would just sit there and be like, oh no, like if I was a good enough person and if I wasn't gay, then like my father wouldn't be dying. Like, and that's a lot to be carrying as a 10-year-old, but like the way I was raised even before that, and like before anyone was sick in my family, because I say this because like, or I do this because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was like 3 and she went through chemo. So like people have been sick in my family for a very long time. It wasn't just like, oh, I turned 17 and suddenly shit hit the fan. Like it's just been a part of my life for so long. I like didn't even think about it. Like this is very sad. One of the main things I used to draw as a kid, because I used to be an artist when I was like a child, was like I would literally draw it's so weird. I would draw like hair from my mom. It would look like a wig, or it would look like a weird shape. Like it would be like a U shape, almost like a rainbow with like puffy like lines on the outside. And I would color it brown because that's what her hair usually looked like when she was well. So I would draw hair all the time. And then I would pray. And I would be like, please let my mom get her hair back. Please let her feel good about herself. Please let her be able to like spend more time with us because she's so tired all the time. And like, obviously like praying, even if anybody's watching and you still are Catholic, I know it's not like a wish list you can go down and ask for things, but like I thought it would work when I was a kid. I don't know. It was like a whole situation. And then shortly after I asked God to fix me, essentially, I immediately went into my wrathful mode, which I had a lot of anger when I was a kid. It was actually really like, it eroded away a lot of my life because of the level of anger I had towards the world, because my dad died and he didn't get better, and now my mom was sick and I was still gay. Like I literally said like, what was it? It was something really intense, and like, oh my God, like something about getting vengeance on God. Like something about either getting vengeance or getting forgiveness. Because I was like, either way, you better give me those things because I'm about to be gay. And I can't change. There's nothing you can do to stop me. So like, that's it. And like, I was like, anyway, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, like I'm fucking gay. And then I repressed it for the next 4 years somehow, even though like I knew. And I started slowly giving into my homosexual urges. But like, it just like, it was so bad. Like I definitely did not feel good about myself. Not that I feel great about myself right now in general. There's a lot going on with that. But like, especially then, I was very like, you made me this way, so you better deal with it. Like God makes no mistakes. Well, I guess I'm not a mistake. So I'm about to make a bunch of mistakes and then we're going to see about it. Like I was, oh my God, like, there was a lot going on. So there was that. I always lied during confession. So like when you're Catholic, there's a fun thing you do where you have to go up every few months, especially in Catholic school, because they would mandate it. They would literally take time out of class and be like, you're going to go up to the priest and you're going to tell him your sins, and he's going to give you, what is it called again? I'm a terrible rusty Catholic. I have not done these things in a very long time. I think it's an act of contrition because you're contrite over what you've done. So he's going to give you your act of contrition, which is usually, you know, a set of prayers that you have to say. And then you're going to go do those prayers and you're going to be absolved until the next time that you come and see the priest. So you literally have to go up to this man. The awkward thing about my church is we didn't have the confessional boxes. You literally just had to, they set up 2 chairs on the sides of the altar, and you had to walk up there, look the priest in the face, and tell him what you did. So like, I went up and I always made up some bullshit excuse like, oh, I forgot to feed the dog and I lied and I said I did, and then like my mom left and then I just fed the dog, so I lied to my mom. Sorry, I broke one of the 10 commandments. I didn't obey my parents. And he'd be like, okay, well, like you have to say 2 Hail Marys and a Glory Be, and then God will forgive you, and next time try not to lie about your feeding the dog. Like I literally would say whatever. But in reality, part of me was like, I feel like I need to confess the fact that I'm attracted to women, and that I don't want to look like a woman. And that I want to wear men's clothes, and I wanted, this is so cursed, this was later in life, but I still felt this way when I was a kid. I was like, and I want to do a drag performance for this girl I like because I want to impress her, and I think that if I looked more like a guy, she would have a crush on me. Like, I like, this is, once again, I'm laughing, but like, it stressed me the fuck out. So all this was happening. I go up, you know, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. It has been 35 days since my last confession, and this is what I have done. Please forgive me, blah, blah, blah. And like, the thing is, the school that I went to was so small that I knew the priest would gossip about what the kids would say to him. And I knew it because I heard it from other people. Because he would go up to a teacher or go up to one of the nuns and be like, oh yeah, like, you know, he said this at confession, and I think I'm gonna talk to his parents. So like, it was really awkward. Like, it's supposed to be completely confidential. It's literally against the priest's little oath thing to, you know, speak ill about the people who, you know, gave him a confession. And like, here he is running around doing whatever he wants because he's a jackass. But that was the priest at my school that I went to from 3rd grade to 8th grade. It was really terrible. Also, I'm sorry for whatever the ceiling is doing. I think the light is just really off, so that's occurring, even though I feel like I look better in this light than usual because I'm not washed out. Anyway, back to Catholicism. I still pray sometimes. It's something I inherited from my mom. Like, really. And it's for silly stuff. The prayer that I use most is the prayer to Saint Anthony, where if you lose something and you really can't find it, you say, I don't even want to say it on camera. It's kind of like, not me feeling blasphemous. Who fucking cares? But also, I'm like, please, Saint Anthony, don't abandon me because I put you on blast on YouTube, please. But it's, I don't know, dear Saint Anthony, won't you please come around? Something is lost and cannot be found. I can't find, this is actually true, it's really disgusting. I can't find the socks for the life of me in this car because it's still full of my stuff. Please help me find my socks. If you do this, I will say 3 Hail Marys and Our Father and a Glory Be. You know, thank you. Literally, I do that all the time because I will literally lose the glasses on the top of my head, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, dear Saint Anthony, will you please come around? Like, I literally, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just something I was taught to do from the time I was a kid, and I still do it now. It's like, I cannot break that habit. But yeah, just Catholicism is so important in Ireland. It's like literally all my mom's people had when they were suffering and starving and dying under, you know, the British fucking genocide that they were being put through. And having their rights stripped away from them and not being able to own land and not being able to vote and like all this stuff. Like, Catholicism was really all that these people really had because they didn't even have food to put in their mouths. They didn't have, you know, money, nothing, because the British were doing these things and occupying so much territory in Ireland. It was really bad. So the Catholicism only like grew in strength, and like the only parallel I can solidly see, not that these are the only like existing fervent Catholics, because I know just in general, I know a lot of like Latino people overall are still Catholic because of colonization, but like particularly like Mexican Catholic people, like they're the only people who I have seen, especially in this country, who have similar rituals to that of like Irish Catholic people, because I think in a lot of ways the faith, once again, the Catholic faith, whatever, was a way to cloak the old religion so that they could still do their practices but not be persecuted by the people who are forcing them to practice Catholicism. So, for example, there are certain ceremonies maybe that they used to have, or certain ways that they would pray, and that would all transfer into, oh, like, you know, we used to pray to a goddess and now we're praying to this goddess who looks like Mary, you know, even though, like, in reality, we all kind of understand that goddess, you know, is kind of one and the same with Mary, because, you know, you won't get in trouble for worshiping Mary. It's, to me, it's very smart. Like, I feel like, very particularly, I guess we're going to bring this up now. I'm like not, I am reading off of the script, but I'm also not really reading off the script. I'm just kind of, we're just kind of doing whatever. But, the Lady of Guadalupe is very important to me, and also just important in general, but important to me because I felt like she's one of the only iterations of Mary, because as I said before, there's so many different versions of Mary, and I just see them as one woman who's taking different faces according to the culture that she's trying to, reach. So I don't know if I want to tell the whole story because it's like a whole situation, and I don't know. It's like I could go into this for once again hours, but I think the summary that I'm going to give is, with the Lady of Guadalupe, I do believe that she is a very old goddess, and she's one of the few goddesses still left in America. But she appeared as, sorry, like this story actually, I think it's so beautiful and like it means a lot to me. So sorry, I'm just like thinking 5 things at once. Essentially, Mary appeared to this guy. His name is Juan Diego, and he was an indigenous, like, Mexican man. And the main thing that sticks out to me was the fact that she appeared as an indigenous woman and spoke in, like, Juan Diego's actual language, not Spanish, like the actual, like, native language. And she told him, hey, I really would like you to build this church for me. It's important. Because this is a holy site now. This is where, like, your people specifically, not the fucking Spanish, but your people can gather to worship. And he was like, okay, like, I believe you, like, totally. But the problem is, the Spanish are not going to believe me. So what can I do about that? And she said, hey, so at the top of this hill, there's going to be winter roses. Even though, once again, since it's so cold, it's the middle of winter, the roses don't normally grow there this time of year. I want you to go up. I want you to clip some of the roses. I want you to put them in your tilma. And I want you to go to the fucking missionary motherfucker and tell him, hey, so this is proof that Mary appeared to me and wants us to build a church right at this site where I saw her. So he puts the flowers in his tilma. He walks over to the missionary. Like, he goes to the village and is like, hey, so I just saw this apparition. She wants us to build a church. It's a real thing. Like, please believe me. Like, she gave me these roses as proof. And the guy, of course, the missionary, was like, I don't know about that. And like, he, Juan Diego, like, lets the roses go to show the missionary guy. I think he might have been a priest, but like, who fucking cares? It's just a dude. In my opinion, he's just a dude with power who's like oppressing other people. He's just like a fucking colonizer. Who cares about his position or station? So reveals the roses, and it's not just roses in there. It's also a perfect image of the Lady of Guadalupe on his tilma. And to this day, they have tested the ink on that tilma. They've tried to do all these scientific experiments and whatever to figure out where it came from, what it is, what the source is of, the material that was, used to make the image, and they cannot figure out what it is. Like, it literally just is an image of this beautiful woman. And like, it really struck me when I was a kid, because up until that point, once again, I'd never seen a version of Mary who like also had like brown skin and ethnic features. Sorry, me like hesitating because there's a dog barking behind me and I didn't know my neighbors had a dog. But yeah, she's a woman of color. She appeared as a woman of color to Juan Diego, a man of color, and then also like the image is a woman of color. So that struck me in such a specific way that I started drawing people of color because I saw that image. I drew her first because, once again, all I drew was Danny Phantom OCs and religious iconography. Excuse me, I can't speak right now. I got too excited. So she really, just that image and that story in general, inspired me to start drawing, weirdly enough, because that's, I don't know, for some reason, all that could get through my head was, fucking Catholic stories. So, I don't know. I respect her a lot, and I see her once again as the goddess of America, because she is. They literally refer to her as the Madonna of the Americas, because I think she might have been one of the only appearances of Mary, in this country. So I take that very seriously, and I take it very personally that the way she appeared wasn't just as, a Spanish woman, which is what you would expect her to appear as, because it's it's Catholicism. Every single apparition is going to be a white woman. It's no, she really did appear as one of the people. Very similarly to the Lady of Knock, where she appeared as one of the people. So to me, that's just such a impactful story. And I don't know. I think she's wonderful. I really do consider her to be, let me backpedal a little bit. I see Mary as a form of my mother. I literally this is like a personal religious thing, I guess, or like faith thing that I do. That it's like Catholicism, but not Catholicism. It's very like, I don't know, specific. Whenever I want to talk to my mom, like my birth mom, I go and speak to the moon. Because to me, the moon is comparable to Mary because it has so many different faces. Similar to the way that Mary has so many different faces. So, I don't know. A lot of my drawing and illustration practice and a lot of my like personal like, I hate to say faith or religion because I guess that's not accurate. A lot of my spiritualism is based around the moon and based around the many faces of like Mary and or the different goddesses. Like there's a Chinese goddess who's very similar to Mary. Her name's Kuan Yin. She's the mother of mercy. Her and Chang O, who's the moon goddess that I know they made a cute little cartoon about, but like I'm talking about like the actual moon goddess who I actually take very seriously, are my inspiration for like a lot of my illustrations. Not like I draw them directly or anything, but like all of my work is like really dedicated to them. I just don't put it in front of my books because I think I don't want to have a conversation about spiritualism actually with anybody because I feel like it gets really weird very fast, and it's also a very personal thing. So I'm just, yeah. All that to say, do I still kind of practice some Catholic things? Absolutely. Do I still pray sometimes in like a very Catholic way? Yes. Do I still bless myself in the Irish way my mom drilled into my mind in Gaelic forever? And if you speak Gaelic, I'm really sorry. I'm about to chop this up so badly, but this is the way my mom said it, and I'm terrible at impersonating my mom. I think it's, I say I think as if I don't do this every day, but it's Anana Manara Augusavik Spiritunave Amen, and that's how you bless Irish soda bread when you cut it into 4 pieces, not only for ventilation but also to bless it in the name of Mary, in my opinion. That's how my mom taught me to do it. So I don't know, I bless myself in Gaelic a lot, and then I pray like a decade of the rosary just to like fall asleep or to like, I don't know, just be like family tradition. And it's, I don't know, it's just part of my life. It's kind of hard to explain. Like it definitely was very traumatizing to be raised Catholic because of the homophobia. Like I literally had a priest, the same priest who would gossip about people's confessions was the same one who would come into our class every Friday, like the last Friday of the month. So not every single Friday, but like the last Friday of the month. And he would answer questions for the kids. And of course the kids were little dipshits. So they would literally like openly look him in the face and be like, haha, what do you think about fags? And he'd be like, fags are going to hell. Like literally. And I would just be sitting there. There were times when I would raise my hand, I'd be like, why? And he'd be like, what do you mean? I'd be like, why are they going to hell? And he's like, because they're committing the crime of homosexuality. And I'd be like, okay, why is it a crime? And like, he would get so mad at me. And I've been sent to the principal before for asking too many questions. And I was like, okay, sorry for defending people of color and like gay people like in Catholic school. But like, it needs to happen because like, we're all being brainwashed. It's kind of fucking ridiculous. I do still listen to church music. Like very frequently. It's like crazy. Like I feel like a crazy person for doing it, but I will literally just be in my house alone and then start singing church music because instead of lullabies, my mom would actually sing me certain hymns and certain songs. And like it's just in there. Like literally I listened to this one specific Irish woman sing Lady of Knock, and I love it. It's a really gorgeous cover. If you look it up, you can find her standing in the church. Just look up Lady of Knock, and it's like one of my favorite songs. And I still sing it when I'm by myself in the house. Like, it's so weird. That and Lead Me Lord, which is an amazing song that my mom used to sing all the time. Amazing because the message? No. Amazing because it gets stuck in your head, and I think about it all the time. It's fine. All right, it's getting really dark, and yet I'm going to film another video, and you're all going to have to suffer through this with me. I put a lot of Catholic imagery in my art. I do. I don't show it much because I just don't release my art anymore because people are annoying, but like I make a lot of like Catholic iconography looking stuff, and it's so much fun, and a lot of it involves BDSM. Like, and butch lesbians. I don't know, like those two things are so inherently connected in my mind that it's hard to separate them. But yeah, I feel like you can see this fucking shirt better than you can see me on camera. Isn't that cursed? I'm so sorry. Anyway, yeah, no, okay, well that's the end of the outline, I guess. So I guess that's the end of the video. But I don't know. I just still engage in Catholicism every once in a while just because I'm very cursed. But at the same time, when I was in it and I was actively in Catholic school, I was suffering so bad. I was so upset all the time. I literally was like, I'm committing a sin by breathing and being alive. And I'm in love with so many girls in my class. Just kidding. There are maybe one or two. But I feel like I can't express that, so I'm just gonna repress everything and like cry, and like that was my life for a very long time, for 15 years actually. And I feel like well, 17 technically, because that went on for long past Catholic school. But I don't know, it's just a lot. I feel like that's part of my life that I don't really talk about, because it's not, once again, it's not like in fashion or cool to like talk about religion in regard, unless you're saying, God, I hate this is disgusting, this is the worst thing to ever happen. I find the people who say that the most are the ones who have never experienced religious trauma and weren't raised religious. Because the thing is, I feel like a lot of people I know who have are like, definitely they feel passionately about it, but they also are like, but it's still weirdly like just in my head, like it's part of my personality now because I was raised that way. It's very like cursed, especially because I feel like I keep saying the same thing over and over again. But my mom was raised in like the 50s and 60s. Like she was raised by a family who was literally born at like the turn of the century. So like her Catholicism is like a brand that maybe a lot of Americans do not see, because it was very like, once again, like old country, like this is all we have, so we have to depend on it situation. And it's like, once again, so hard to describe, but that's how I was raised. So I feel like there's a generational gap between me and people my age, because I try to talk about my like Catholic experiences and they're like, oh yeah, my mom talks about that all the time. And I'm like, yeah, your mom, because your mom was raised by the same generation of people who raised me. It's like really weird. But yeah, I think that's it. And also this lighting is so bad. I don't know if I should make another video after this, but I still might, because I have a feeling most of the people who watch my videos aren't even really watching them. They're just like putting them on as background noise, which I get because I do the same thing all the time. So I will talk to you soon in the next 5 minutes, but also for you, it's going to be next week. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you were not also raised this level of Catholic, because it's very stressful. Bye.